building up these military installations. We have problems with Russia. Just the other day, Russia allowed a television camera to see the plans for a drone submarine that could carry a tactical nuclear weapon. So we've got to look at the full range and then come to some smart decisions about how to have a more streamlined and focused defense.
All right, Senator Sanders, I'm sorry, we're going to have to take a break now. We will have more of the Democratic debate here from Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa.
Well, I'm kind of surprised at Sanders there. I don't know if you are. Maybe I need to listen to that clip again at the beginning where he was talking about Muslims and how they abuse children and kill women, rape women. Which the extremists, this is true. This is true. But also, when it comes to Christianity, this is something they did not discuss. But it just made me think and go there. Christians are so comfortable with someone else going to bat for them. Let Jesus die for them and their sins so they can enter heaven. And they're so easy to send someone else somewhere else. They don't take care of their backyard. They don't choose kindness for their neighbor. On the whole, they're wanting to have appearances and study the Bible. Let's have a Bible study, y'all. My knowledge tells me that Islam is truly a peaceful religion. However, the people that follow Islam are not so peaceful. Well, that's the way I look at it. The laws that they create based on their holy book, the Quran. Because if you look at the Quran, it grants more rights to women than the Bible grants rights to women. If you just look at it as a whole, that's from The History of God. It was written by some nun. Sorry, I can't remember her name, but it was an interesting read. And just hearing Bernie talk, I'm really shocked and appalled that people said that he won the debate. First he says climate, hard for me to get the words out. Earlier in the debate, he said that climate change is linked to terrorism. And it's true, them that have the goods make the rules and, invest in water. That's all I can say to you. Because it's not going to last forever. Clinton is not looking that bad, but again, he should bring up that she's never voted against a military invasion. She's never voted against one. And she's all for us to be in Syria to do a no-fly zone, which means our boots are on the ground. It's going to cost us more in human life and in money, and our resources are being stretched as it is. I don't remember O'Malley talking. Do you remember O'Malley talking? I don't. I just assume he'd walk away, but I don't get to make those choices. Let me take a look at the chat room and see if they have any discussion on the debate at this point. Let me scroll down. They are talking about all sorts of things in the chat room. Something about Jesus Camp. I remember Stabby McHug's a chatter in the room. Talk about that before. Please go watch that movie on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. But he talked about scary white kids. I assume it's some Christian thing. But ATI is a Christian curriculum used in homeschool. And what's his name? The guy that's over that got in trouble for being with an underage girl. If you want to look at extremeness, ATI is very extreme. It will blame the female for the rape because they enticed the male. If they were not so seductive, he would not have taken that action. It's kind of like what the Duggar family's into. Matter of fact, they really advocate for ATI, which they really shouldn't, but we saw what happened with their oldest. So what do you guys think of the debate so far? Stabby says, Muslims will say they hold women in a higher standard. It's the Quran that holds women in a higher standard, in my opinion. Let's see. A woman, honor and value. I don't quite understand that statement, Stabby. Bernie versus Trump. Is that what you predict, Stabby McHugs? Well, I think you're right. Trump would not be the worst president. I think that James Polk, who had 19 children, by the way, and his wife died while he was in office. So he was a single father to 19 kids. Or 17 kids. 17. It's the Duggars that have 19. Let's see. Well, that might very well be true. Again, we're going to go to Stabby McHugs, making a notation on Trump. And he states, quote, I think once he got into office, much of his bullshit and grandstanding will fall away as he gains the scope of his job, end quote. And I think he's referring to Trump. So, Mr. White says, if elected, he could not bully in regards to Trump. Oh, I think you're incorrect on that. I think he would bully countries and, can you imagine Trump and Putin? Can you just imagine what that conversation would be like? I mean, Putin, they're both narcissists, in my opinion. Oh, gosh. All right. Apocalypse is talking about Jesus Camp. He's a chatter in the chat room. He says it's a Pentecostal summer camp for children who spend their summers learning and practicing their prophetic gifts and being taught that they can take back America for Christ, end quote. Wow. That's crazy. But, I've been in the homeschool world for some time, and I have been around a variety of different extremists. And it's been very eye-opening. So for Bernie Sanders to color all Muslims this way, and then to put salt in the wound, he invites them in. He asked them to join him. I'm like, really? You slap them in the head and then pat them on the head like that was okay? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, Stabby McHugs is saying that I'm making sure to quote him. Well, you were actually talking about things pertaining to the debate. And since I don't have the other studio fixed up where I can take calls, this is the only way I have to interact with you. So, my goodness. And RD says, he's a chatter, voting for established political parties is useless. Well, I take issue with that. That's like saying your vote doesn't count, and your vote does count, at least in the United States. I don't know much of your political affiliations where you live. He does not live in the United States. But I'm open for discussion on it. I think the two-party system is very much dated, especially with all the PACs and the money. Clinton has so many super PACs supporting her. Bernie does not. Now, that really does stand out to me and speaks volumes. Maybe I will go for Bernie, but at this point, I'm shaking my head, and the only one that makes any sense to me right now is Hillary Clinton, former Secretary Hillary Clinton, if I had to choose from these three. So, and I may not vote as a Democrat this year, this election, presidential election. I may vote differently. I just really wish there was a third option, and it seems like I say that quite often. The world is not like I want it, and I have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. But the world is not how you want it. And adjust. We all have to adjust. It would be better if people ran for office so that some offices would not run unopposed. Bernie beer. Oh my goodness. I remember Clinton and his brother Billy Beer. Was it Billy Bob Beer, or it was something like that? All right. Well, I guess that's... What about Hillary? Oh, Hitlery. RD is not a fan of the Clintons, and I understand why, but this is our country, and I don't have very many choices. I just don't. But can you imagine Bill Clinton as first man? First gentleman, I guess. First lady, first gentleman. Can you imagine? He'd want to walk into that Oval Office and take over. Can't you just hear it? God, she would say, bless it, get out of my office. I can just hear it. Can you imagine, especially if he was drunk? Oh, the comedians, they should hope that Clinton gets elected, right? Wow. Let's go back. And RD, I respect what you have to say. I disagree. So let's go back to, let's see, that was part 3. Part 4 is not as long. Well, let's see what you guys think of part 4. There's a total of 6 parts.
I want to turn now from terrorism to another important issue for many Americans, the financial squeeze on the middle class. For that, we go to my CBS News colleague, Nancy Cordes. Nancy?
John, thanks so much. We've learned a lot during the course of this campaign about the things that you'd like to do that you say would help the middle class, but we haven't learned quite as much about who would pick up the tab. So, Secretary Clinton, first to you. You want to cap individuals' prescription drug costs at $250 a month. You want to make public college debt-free. You want community college to be free altogether, and you want mandatory paid family leave. So who pays for all that? Is it employers? Is it the taxpayers? And which taxpayers?
Well, first of all, it isn't the middle class. I have made very clear that hardworking middle-class families need a raise, not a tax increase. In fact, wages adjusted for inflation haven't risen since the turn of the last century after my husband's administration. So we have a lot of work to do to get jobs going again, get incomes rising again. And I have laid out specific plans. You can go to my website, HillaryClinton.com, and read the details. And I will pay for it by, yes, taxing the wealthy more, closing corporate loopholes, deductions, and other kinds of favorable treatment. And I can do it without raising the debt, without raising taxes on the middle class, and making it reasonably manageable within our budget so that we can be fiscally responsible at the same time.
But a quick follow-up on that $250 a month cap. Wouldn't the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies just pass that cost on to the consumers in the form of higher premiums?
Well, we're going to have to redo the way the prescription drug industry does business. For example, it is outrageous that we don't have an opportunity for Medicare to negotiate for lower prices. In fact, American consumers pay the highest prices in the world for drugs that we helped to be developed through the National Institutes of Health and that we then tested through the FDA. So there's more to my plan than just the cap. We have to go after price gouging and monopolistic practices and get Medicare the authority to negotiate.
Governor O'Malley, you also want to make public college debt-free. You want states to freeze tuition. You've got your own family leave plan. How would you pay for it? In Maryland, you raise the sales tax, you raise the gas tax, and you raise taxes on families making over $150,000 a year. Is that the blueprint?
Now, Nancy, the blueprint in Maryland that we followed was, yes, we did, in fact, raise the sales tax by a penny. And we made our public schools the best public schools in America for 5 years in a row with that investment. And yes, we did ask everyone, the top 14% of earners in our state, to pay more in their income tax. And we were the only state to go 4 years in a row without a penny's increase to college tuition. So while other candidates will talk about the things they would like to do, I actually got these things done in a state that defended not only a AAA bond rating, but the highest median income in America. I believe that we pay for many of the things that we need to do again as a nation, investing in the skills of our people, our infrastructure, and research and development, and also climate change, by the elimination of one big entitlement that we can no longer afford as a people. And that is the entitlement that many of our super wealthiest citizens feel they are entitled to pay, namely a much lower income tax rate and a lower tax rate on capital gains. I believe capital gains, for the most part, should be taxed the same way we tax incomes from hard work, sweat, and toil. And if we do those things, we can be a country that actually can afford debt-free college again.
Senator Sanders, you want to make public college free altogether. You want to increase Social Security benefits, and you want to spend $1 trillion on infrastructure. So you've said that to do some of these things, you'll impose a tax on top earners. How high would their rate go in a Sanders administration?
Let me put those proposals, and you're absolutely right. That is what I want to do. That is what has to happen if we're going to revitalize and rebuild the crumbling middle class. In the last